Welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And today I'm delighted to have with us Paul Kaye, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Leeds Credit Union. So firstly, Paul, thanks for spending some time with us this morning. If you'd like to introduce yourself and the Leeds Credit Union and explain to us a little bit more about how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Sure, yeah, thanks, Chris. Nice to speak to you too. So yeah, as you said, I'm Paul Kaye, the Chief Executive of Leeds Credit Union. I've been at the credit union now for about 14, 15 months. So joined at the back end of the pandemic, which was an interesting time to join the business. And the credit union, we've got 36,000 members. We're one of the largest credit unions in regards of membership in the UK. We operate predominantly in the Leeds and Wakefield areas. Credit unions are limited by a common bond. Our common bond is a geographical one, so currently that's limited to Leeds and Wakefield. We've got about 27 million of assets. Our net loan book is about just over 6 million, and we've got just over 20 million of savings balances from our members. We're member owned, so we're mutual in that regard. So our members can vote at our AGM on various things that we want to do as a business, and we're here to help everybody. Credit unions, I think, in the past have probably had a reputation of only being here to help the financially vulnerable or to help with financial resilience. But actually, we do that, and we do that very well. But actually, you can use the credit union, you can use your local credit union if you're a very high credit scoring prime type of customer. We're not for profit, so we're not here to make huge profits, unlike the banks. We don't have shareholders. So what that enables us to do is to reinvest into the local community, reinvest into people in the local area. So we look for all kinds of people to come and join us. We try and do things in a financially responsible way. When we're lending to people, we lend to people via people. Everything is done by a person, by an underwriter. So it's a very personable service. And we're here to support the local community. We give back to the local community with various charitable donations and various things like that. But we also get a lot of support. So we get support from the Leeds Council, we get support from Wakefield Council. And that helps us just build up that financial resilience in the area, and hopefully stops people from having to use loan sharks or high interest short-term lenders, and then people getting into kind of a bit of a debt spiral. We're here to try and stop that from happening. And right now, with the cost of living challenge that everyone's facing, I think credit unions more than ever are very important as part of the financial landscape of the UK.
Wonderful. And yes, I can imagine right now must be obviously is a quite challenging time for many people, and it's great to see that you're there to support them, as you say, as an as the obvious alternative to more or less attractive options that people sometimes take.
Yeah.
So if we could ask you a little bit more about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one.
Well, my background is quite varied, Chris. I've worked in a number of places. I've worked in insurance, I've worked in retail, I've worked for some of the large banks, I've worked for small brokerages, I've worked in the brewing sector. I've done all kinds of things. I've been a consultant for a period of time. So I've worked across sectors in both very large and small businesses. And I guess, coming to Leeds Credit Union, I've tried to bring all that experience together and put it to good use at the credit union. And running a small business is a challenge.
Yes.
And especially one when you've got, whilst we're only a small credit union, we still have a lot of regulation from PRA and the FCA. So with a small headcount, we haven't got big teams of people that can go and look at all this stuff. So you kind of have, as CEO of a small business, you kind of have to know a lot about a lot of things, which brings with it its own challenges. But fortunately, I've built a good team around me. I guess I kind of look at it like a bit of a conductor. I'm the conductor. I don't play many instruments, but I have lots of people that can play the instruments, and my job is to bring them all together to get the best tune out of them. So that's kind of the way I look at it. So yeah, so hopefully I brought my background to good use in the credit union and doing something good for the local community, which is nice. You know, when you've had a tough day, you can always reflect back that you know, you've made a difference, and even if you make a difference to one person's lives, it's a good feeling.
Brilliant. Yeah, and that's great to hear, and I'm sure it must be very, very rewarding. And so when you were growing up, was this sort of thing that you envisaged you'd be doing, or was this something different?
No, I think when I was younger, it was I think my first plan was to be a fighter pilot. That didn't quite work out. The glasses didn't help. And then, you know, I love my sport, so you know, big into my tennis and various things. So I wanted to be a sports person, but that didn't work out because I guess I wasn't good enough. So I did, I guess, what the usual thing. I used to live down in Essex, and so not far from London. And I did the usual thing of going into the city and getting a job in insurance and seeing what would happen. And I very quickly kind of felt that probably wasn't the right thing for me. So I left there and went into retail, joined a retail business and helped grow that retail business, and eventually became the managing director of that business. And we floated the business on the stock market. I think I was about 27, 28 at the time, and
Wow.
it was a big learning experience for me.
Yeah.
And again, quite challenging, but great learning. And then did that for a while, and then kind of left that. Got into the that's when I went into the brewing industry. They were looking for retailers to come in at the time.
Yeah.
Retailers were kind of I guess the sexy thing at the time, and everyone wanted a retailer in their business. So I joined Green King, the brewers, and helped them grow their estate and develop new concepts for them. And did that for a while. So I kind of didn't really have a direct plan, as it were. But what I guess over my career, what I've done is I've joined businesses where I don't know an awful lot about the business, but I've brought my skills and a new and fresh outlook to the business, combining that with the people that are already in the business, and put those two things together for the benefit overall. And I think that's kind of what I've done over my career. I've gone into all these different industries with a fresh pair of eyes, and I like learning. I like learning about new industries, new businesses. You know, coming to the credit union, you know, I've been here just over a year, as I said, and I'm still learning. And I like that. I like that learning experience and helping a new business grow and develop.
Wonderful. It brings me to mind. I mean, you know, I work with many businesses in many different sectors, and I often get asked, you know, what do you know about my industry, my business? And the answer is not a lot, and that's great because I ask better questions. And you know, there is a benefit to knowing industry, but there's also a benefit to not, because I think we can challenge the norms that may have existed for many years. So coming in fresh and with, as you say, a different pair of eyes can be, you know, very, very valuable.
I think so, and I think the other thing I've tried to do is, you know, I've worked in all these different places, and I've obviously worked for different people and with different people, and I think you know, I've learned some of the good traits, I hope, from some of the good leaders I've worked with and for, and also learn what the bad things are and try not to do those. So I think, you know, you can always develop, you can always learn as an individual, and I try and portray that onto the people that work with me, you know, wherever I'm in a leadership position, and try and help and develop people in their careers. And you know, I love nothing more than someone saying to me that, you know, I've learned a lot here, and it's time for me to move on and go get a bigger and better job, and that's absolutely fine. You know, no problem with that. I still mentor a couple of people that don't work for me anymore, that I do in my spare time, try and help them out where I can. I get you know, some good satisfaction out of doing that type of thing as well.
Brilliant, wonderful. And over your career, what would you say some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
I guess one of the things would be what do you know about this business? Is kind of what sometimes you're met with, and you know, you have to convince people by your actions and your you know, the decisions that you make that they can buy into you, and that's, I guess, one of the biggest challenges. And then I guess trying to work with people that perhaps share a different view to what you might have. And trying to convince people that sometimes change is the right thing. Not always, But sometimes, people have been in the business a long time and kind of stuck in their ways a little bit. Trying to bring people on that journey, I think is sometimes a challenge. And I think also dealing with people that are a bit intransigent in their views and not willing to open their minds up. I think that's always difficult. And then, different in different businesses. So in big businesses, it's difficult to make a big impact quickly. In small businesses, you don't have the resources, so you have to be very creative on the way you go about spending your time and your focus, and trying to get people external people sometimes, especially with a credit union, to support the business and come on that journey with you. So I think there's some of the challenges, but nothing's insurmountable if you've got the desire and the will.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. And what do you say? What would you say some of the biggest learnings you've had in business or even in life?
I think sometimes, certainly in my case, I can jump from point A to point Z quite quickly, and trying to bring people on that journey with you and explain in a little bit more detail and break it down in easy steps for people to digest can sometimes be some of the things I need to think about. I'm always looking to move fast and to grow a business. And again, sometimes my team will turn around to me and say, "Hang on a minute, Paul. You've given us about 15 things to do here. Let's just think about which one we want to get done first." So it's about trying to find that balance. And I'm a believer in getting it to a point that getting any initiative or any project to a point that is good enough to go. It doesn't have to be 100%. If it's good enough to go, let's get it out there. Let's learn and let's develop it as we're on that path. So I've kind of learned that over the years, to try and perhaps slow down a little bit and just explain things in a bit more detail, so people can understand what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go. And I think it's really important that the team here are great and have really been supportive of what we're trying to do here. And touch wood, the results are starting to speak for themselves. And so that gives them confidence in believing the vision that we've set here and what we want to try and achieve. So I think that's working quite well.
Brilliant, wonderful. And you're probably aware we're a coaching organisation, so I'm keen to know who's the best coach you've ever worked with, whether that's in sport, business, or life.
It's a good question. I guess when I was at Leeds Building Society, actually, they were very kind enough to pay for an external mentor coach for me, and that was quite a good experience, because we went through that kind of finding out a bit more about me and what makes me tick, and where my strengths lie and what sort of role I should be doing. So that was very useful, and I'm thankful for Leeds Building Society for investing in me during that part of my career, which was great. But I think you can pick up things from all kinds of places. So I'm a tennis coach as well. I'm a qualified tennis coach, and I think going through that experience and learning to become a tennis coach can help you in your work life as well, and learning again a new skill that you can then use across multiple disciplines. Whether it's, my daughter plays tennis. She doesn't let me coach her, so she has her own coach. But I've worked with when I was doing my tennis coaching, I was working with some young children, and again, that was a great learning experience, because trying to get a group of 10, 5 or 6 year olds to kind of do what you're trying to get them to do is not easy. Again, it teaches you new skills. So I think a combination of things really. The external work I did when I was at Leeds Building Society was very good, but also becoming a tennis coach myself has kind of taught me a new way of doing things. So it's been good. But I think you can pick up things from whether it's reading books from famous sports people that have had good coaches, and I think you pick up things from all over the place really, and you try and like I said before, when I work with different people in my career, and some good, some bad, and I've tried to pick up bits and pieces from all of them. I work with a board now. I have a board that's a volunteer board, and I work with them, and I learned from watching other people and how they work with boards to try and take them on that journey and explain things and give them enough information that they can get confidence in you as a CEO, and give you some freedom to go and do the things you need to do.
Bang on. We obviously we're a business coaching organisation, but we've brought a lot of we've studied a lot sports coaching techniques, because that's where you get the performance part of coaching the people we work with. And we're lucky enough to do a lot of work with a guy called Frank Dick, who's a very senior performance coach in the athletics arena. And he was on a call with us recently, and he said something that stuck in my mind, and it was we need to analyse. We learn a lot from defeats, from failures, but we also need to learn from successes, from wins. And I heard him say, if you don't know why you've won, then it's only luck. And yeah. I think that's because I've always thought learning more from failure. I really believe, it's being comfortable with failure in terms of how much we can learn from it, and probably focus more on that. But the idea of, why did we win? What was behind that is so valuable too. And I align with that. My own personal business coach is an ex-Olympic badminton coach. He's now a business coach as well. But bringing those techniques from the world of sport is so valuable, because they're so far more advanced than probably any other discipline, I think.
I think so. And I think one of the things I learned from some of the coaches that coach my daughter is focus on the process. Don't worry about the outcome so much. When I was younger, when I was playing sport, it was more focused on the outcome. Did you win? Did you lose? What was the what was the outcome? What was the score? And actually, it's more about focusing on that process. Do the right things. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. If you're doing the right things, eventually those right things will lead to the right result and the right outcome. So it's just about taking that step back and saying, are we doing the right things in whether it's sport, whether it's business? Are we doing the right things? If we are, then we're building that kind of foundation, that bedrock that you can then go and get the results from. And we're seeing that in this business. One of the first things we needed to do here in this business was a protect phase. I called it protect, improve, extend. And we went through the protect phase here, and we needed to do that first. We're now moving into the improve and the extend phase, and so we're starting to now get the results, but we couldn't have got those results unless we had that solid foundation, that protect phase in place first. So that's the way we kind of go about things, and it's a similar, it's building the process, and then the outcome will take care of itself, hopefully.
Brilliant. That's great, and give me something to think about. And on that note, actually, is there any other sort of favourite quotes or sayings that you find yourself using a lot?
So I like one that says, when you speak, you repeat what you know. When you listen, you learn more. I try. I touched on earlier about building my team, and built a new senior management team here. And I try and work with them in a very collegiate, very open way, where everyone's got a voice. As I said, I haven't got all the answers, so I rely on my team to work together as a team, and I'm quite happy to sit in the meeting and just listen, because they can teach me as much as I can teach them. And that just doesn't apply to the senior management team, by the way. That applies to everybody in the business. We've got a great lady here, receptionist, great lady. And she teaches me things all the time. So it's about listening sometimes as well as speaking. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think it was Stephen Covey sort of coined the phrase "listen to understand rather than to respond," and I think that's really powerful statement. That it's too often people are sort of listening so that they can put their point of view. It's really just how can I contribute what you've said, but if I understand first, then I can probably respond better. That makes a lot of sense. So what would you say, Paul, you've learned about yourself over this journey that you've had?
That's a good question. I think I'm better. I talked about the sessions I was having at Leeds Building Society. I think I'm better in a leadership position. I tend to do well in those types of positions rather than in a much bigger organisation, working at a different level. I think I work better in a small to medium size business where I can have more of an impact and use some of my ideas that I have. I think I've learned to try and relax a little bit more and understand, that if we are on the right journey, we've got the right processes in place, then the results will come, and not chase the result too hard too early.
Yeah.
I think I've learned that. I think I've learned to try and over the years to try and get the balance right between work and family. I don't always get that right, but I've tried to do that and tried to understand what my motivations are. Why do I work? And I think it's very important to understand what your personal motivations are. Mine is my family, and I think trying to understand what other people's motivations are, why they're here, why they're working, is important as well. So I think I've learned that, to try and do that over the years.
Brilliant, wonderful. And so looking forward, I guess it'd be great to hear what the future looks like, and what do you see as the main challenges, if any?
Well, the future for the Leeds Credit Union is to grow. I think that has to be the future for most credit unions, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we have to grow to be sustainable moving forward. Credit unions are a little bit constrained by regulation, by law, and what we can and can't do. So it's not a level playing field that we currently have with building societies or banks, and I think that needs to change.
Yeah.
And pleasingly, there's hopefully some legislation going through Parliament early part of next year that will allow us to offer more products to our members, which will be good. But I think there's still more work to be done with allowing credit unions to grow, because if we don't grow, we can't generate enough reserves. We can't generate reserves. We can't reinvest in the business, and if we're not reinvesting in our business, we're not reinvesting in our people or our members. So we need to be able to do that, and that's the challenge. The challenge is, we're not here. Our number one focus isn't profit. Our number one focus is the balance of being commercially viable, but by also creating more financial inclusion across the UK. There's a number of stats out there. So there's 14 million Britons have had an income shock over the last 12 months. 41% of people don't have enough savings to get them through a month if they lost their job. That can't be good for society as a whole, and certainly not, if you think about the stress that puts on people, and therefore time off work and productivity drops, and so it's not good for the UK economy either. So I think as a credit union we can support that. We have a great payroll product that helps people with regular savings, and it just gets them into the savings habit. And by the way, if they've got a good savings record, then they can borrow easier as well. So there's a big benefit of regular savings, and we offer a great payroll product that helps that we work with large employers to offer. So there's things like that I think we need to do more of. But the challenge is we don't have large amounts of reserves, because we're not just focused on profit. We're focused on doing the right thing as well. And it's trying to find that balance. So we do need support from local authorities. We need support from various organisations around the UK. We need support from regulators. We need support from government. I had a good meeting with the CEO of the FCA a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the unintended consequences sometimes of regulation and what it means. And if you just focus on profit, then you don't offer financial advice to people with £20,000 or £10,000 or £5,000. So where do they get that advice from? And we can't give it because we have to be licensed, and there's a hell of a lot of cost of doing that. So how can we work with regulators to fill that gap that the profit centres of the banks don't want to do, or pretend they do but don't really do it? And we can fill that gap, but we need support to be able to do that. And when we can get the momentum, when we can build up our reserves, then we can be more self-sustaining moving forward. And so it's about trying to find that balance, really, of getting those two things going together.
Yeah, brilliant. I can see how all that makes so much sense. It is strange, as you rightly say, when you're profit driven, you're looking for the more profitable clients, and often they're the ones that aren't those are the ones that probably need more help. So
exactly,
it's great that you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, we offer lots of advice, where we can. within our remit for people. We'll point them in the right direction. And our average loan size is £1,000. There's a very high transactional cost of doing that,
Yes.
but it's the right thing to do. So if you were looking at it as a pure profit centre, you wouldn't do some of the things that we do. So it's about trying to find that balance of being commercially viable with support, but also offering that advice and that help that we can offer to people that need it.
Brilliant. That's wonderful. And just a few questions as we sort of wrap up. What would you say to anyone that was thinking of going into a business right now, Paul?
Into a business?
Into business, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, into business. I would say understand why you're going to that business.
Yeah.
And what you want to get out of it, both for yourself, but for the business as well. And going with your eyes open. And make sure you do your due diligence before you join a business. But if you are going into a business at whatever level, be prepared to commit 100% to it, because I don't think you can do it and you can do a good enough job unless you are prepared to do that.
Yeah.
And try and find something that you get. It sounds a bit corny, but you get some kind of satisfaction out of as well. And that doesn't always mean less working hours. It just means that when you are putting a long day in, or you are in every business, there's always challenges, right? No matter who you are.
Yeah.
But as long as you get some satisfaction, you can deal with the challenges. And so it's about trying to find that balance of why you're there, what's the purpose of you, what's the purpose of the organisation, and how you're going to get satisfaction out of that, and make sure from that point of view it's the right fit.
Yeah, I think it was Brian Tracy talked about, if everyone in an organisation spends most of their time doing the three things they really love and they're really good at, then everyone's happier, therefore more effective, more productive, and everybody wins. And I think it's helping people find their right role, and the role that engages them, that you do, even if you aren't getting paid almost. And when you find those roles, then
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and we have a team here that I've touched on the resources that we have. They're not the highest paid people by any stretch of the imagination. We did an employee opinion survey a few months back, and the scores out of 5 are all 4s or above. And we've tried to create an environment where people are enjoying what they do, they're working hard, but they understand why they're doing it, and what's the purpose for us as a business, and what are we here to achieve. And I think the CEO's job is to set that vision and get people to buy into it. And we've got a good team, and they're all working really hard to support our members and to get behind me and support me, which is great.
Brilliant. And if you started your career again, is there anything you do differently looking backwards?
I'd probably work a bit harder on the tennis court when I was younger, so I could be a tennis player. Would anything I do differently? I don't think so. I think when you're young, you're different. So it's easy to look back now with the benefit of hindsight and perhaps a bit more wisdom to say, well, I shouldn't have done that when I was younger. But I was younger then, so I was a different person. So I don't think I would have done an awful lot differently. You can always look back and say, yeah, I might have changed that, or I might have done this. But I've enjoyed most of the roles I've done. In that regard, I think as you go through your career, you go through your life, you're a different person anyway. So I think it's very difficult to go back and say I would have done things differently, because I wasn't that person then. So
no, absolutely fair comment. And the way I look at it is, if I like where I am right now, then if I'd have done anything differently, I might not be here. So it's sort of it's I think that's the way I look at it. And finally, what's the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you? You might have done it already, but if you could go back in time and do so, Paul.
I think just to have a bit more patience would probably be the one thing. As I said, I'm always trying to move at pace and at speed, and probably because I was very competitive when I was younger with my sport, I've always been competitive in my work life, and probably to be a bit more patient and understand that people work at different pace and different speeds. Probably be the thing I would try and do a bit differently.
Wonderful.
Yeah, but I think, you know, I touched on kind of your career path. You know, there are the roles I've had that I haven't, you know, perhaps enjoyed as much as some others. But actually, what I think is really important is that as long as you take away a learning from that, and you take away, you know, the style of people that you like working for, the style of people you haven't liked working for, I think as you rightly say, you know, if I hadn't learned those things at the time, they might have seemed tough. But if you hadn't learned those things, you might not be where you are now. So, so I think, you know, you should never look back and regret anything. I think you should look back and say, you know, there's a saying, isn't there? You only regret the things you didn't do. So I think you can always, as long as you take a learning from it, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, I think you can move on. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think it was Mandela said, I never lose, I either win or learn, and I do like that phrase. Well, Paul, thank you. It's been really fascinating and really, I think, inspiring for myself, and I'm sure people that listen to this. And really wish you and Leeds Credit Union really well. And if anybody wants to find out more about who you are and what you do and participate, because I know you're looking, you know, there's a combination of borrowers and savers, isn't there, in what you do? What's the best way to do that?
So we have a website. You can visit our website, just search Leeds Credit Union. We're just launching a new app, which is really exciting for us. So in a couple of weeks, you're going to go on the App Store and download Leeds Credit Union's app. So that you can find us through that way. Or you can ring us up. You know, as I said, we've got a really great receptionist who takes all our calls for us. So she'll be more than happy to help. And by all means, if someone wants to contact me directly, feel free to do that as well.
Thank you. Well, Paul, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing the growth that's going to happen over the next couple of years.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.